Hello, my online learners. This video is to help walk you through the information on the biological molecules section. If you've done any sort of nutritional studies, you probably realize that there are three types of food that we talk about a lot: carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Those are biological molecules. So we'll be looking at those along with a fourth one called nucleic acids. So as we go through the biological molecules, I am working off the biological molecules note sheet, and we are going to look at the four classifications of biological molecules: carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. And I'll be showing snippets of a video which are related in the watch section of this module. And I want you to look at the building blocks, or what is making up the molecule. What is the special function of this molecule, and then what are examples of it in the body. And it's important we look at what makes up these molecules, so later on when we're looking at digestion and breaking down these molecules, we know what our body is going to use. Okay, first one is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. So we are going to look at the structure, the function, and examples. So watch this little bit of a video, and then I want you to extract the information, and we'll come back and discuss it at the end.
We can represent the proportion of these elements within carbohydrate molecules with the formula CH2O. Most carbohydrates are characterized as either monosaccharides, disaccharides, or polysaccharides.
So what you'll see with carbohydrates is carbohydrates are made up of only three elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But it's the unique way they're rearranged that give them their special properties. So this little stop sign type shape is a carbohydrate. This is a sugar. And the one thing about biologists is we count 1, 2, many. That's about it. So mono means one, di means two, and poly means many. And you'll see these terms later on. So when sugars are classified, they're classified into just mono, which means there's one group together; di, there's two groups together; or many, and there's three groups together. When we're looking at biological molecules, the shape is very important. So as you add bigger molecules, you change the shape. Monosaccharides are the basic building block. Now, the way chemistry works is that each one of these corners has a carbon. So you may know glucose as C6H12O6, and the individual carbons aren't important. It's the shape. So when we're looking at carbohydrates, the main function of carbohydrates is an energy source for your cell. And you may have heard that glucose plus oxygen produces carbon dioxide and water plus ATP. Glucose is the main form of monosaccharide or carbohydrate that the body uses. So those are monosaccharides. Then when you put them together, you can get a disaccharide. Here you have regular table sugar. Table sugar is two sugars together, so it is a disaccharide. And it is joined together chemically. Then another thing that's very important is our polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are long chains, and depending on the way the chain is made, this is how energy is stored. So when we look at polysaccharides, we have straight chains, which is amylose or regular plant starch, which you find in wheat, potatoes, starch. Then you have branch chains, and branch chains are very important because they have more than one end you can act on. So when we look at this molecule, this branch chain, a good example of it is glycogen. And we'll look at glycogen a little later on. And the interesting thing about glycogen is that it has more than one ending. So glycogen is where glucose is stored in our bodies. Here's just a few more examples of polysaccharides, remembering that it is the shape of biological molecules that matter. So here you have cellulose, which is the stringy things in celery. And our bodies are unable to break the bonds in between molecules. So as a result, cellulose is good for fiber in our body. Here is chitin, which is used in insects and exoskeletons. And here is another one. It's a polypeptidoglycan. And polypeptidoglycans are important in the cell walls of bacteria. Here you can see, here is our glucose chains and other molecules holding it together. But that makes it nice and flexible because there is movement. Okay, that is the end of the carbohydrate video. So let's take a second and go back and summarize. Okay, a summary of carbohydrates. So when we're looking at carbohydrates, our basic structure is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And it is forming a repeating unit or a monomer. Monomer is the fancy word for repeating unit. And that repeating unit is glucose, or a form of simple sugar. Then you can have sugar, either one of them, which is a monosaccharide. They can be in pairs, which is a disaccharide, or they can be very complex with many glucose molecules called a polysaccharide. The main function of energy is sugar, main function of carbohydrates is sugar for energy or energy storage, such as starch if you're a potato, or glycogen if you are a human, and also structure. So if we look at cellulose, its structure in a plant, chitin, its structure in an animal. So take a second, update your biological molecules note sheet, and that is the end of carbohydrates. We will continue on with proteins in the next video.